The trail was long behind me, and I'd meant to ride until sundown without looking back. Dust clung to my boots and the reins sat loose in my hands, my mare loping steady beneath me. I wasn't headed anywhere in particular, hadn't been in some time. Towns had a way of closing in on me. People asked questions. I preferred the company of silence and the wind across the prairie. But that evening, the wind carried something different. Smoke, bitter and fresh. I reined in without thinking, scanning the ridge ahead. There it was. A thin column twisting up toward the sky, no bigger than a cook fire, but sharp with ruin. My mare shifted under me, uneasy. Could have been an old lightning strike, I thought, or something worse. I kicked her into a trot, keeping low. The land dipped into a shallow draw where mesquite gave way to blackened earth. That's when I saw it. A wagon, broken and still smoldering. One wheel snapped clean off and the canvas scorched down to the ribs. The wood hissed where the fire still lived. Someone had been hit hard and fast. I dismounted, gun in hand. Didn't need it. There, just beyond the wreck, was a woman. She was lying half-curled in the dirt, one arm thrown over something small. Her dress was torn, stained with soot and blood. Her chest moved barely. Beside her was a baby, swaddled tight in a gray blanket. Lying so still I feared the worst. But then the baby opened his eyes. He looked right at me, blue as mountain sky, and, God help me, he smiled. Not a whimper, not a cry. Just this calm, knowing smile like he'd been expecting me. I blinked, heart knocking around in my ribs. I wasn't a man used to being looked at that way. Not by anyone. And sure as hell not by babies. I holstered the gun and crouched beside them. The woman was breathing, shallow but steady. Her face was scraped and swollen, with a bruise along the cheekbone that made my jaw tense. I touched her shoulder. She flinched but didn't wake. I lifted the baby in both hands, careful as I could. He couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 months. Plump cheeks, soft hair damp with sweat. Not a mark on him. Whoever tried to kill them hadn't gotten to him. I looked around. No tracks I could see yet, but the wind would wipe them away fast. This hadn't happened long ago, less than an hour, maybe. Whoever did this might still be near. I didn't think. I just acted. I carried the woman and child a few hundred yards up into a low bluff where a rocky overhang gave some shelter. Tied my horse nearby, set the baby in my saddle blanket, and started tending to the woman. She stirred once while I cleaned the gash on her head, her lips parting like she meant to speak. But nothing came. Just a faint sigh, then sleep again. The sun dipped low while I built a small fire and boiled water in an old tin I carried. The baby, Tobias, that's the name I gave him in my head, though I didn't know yet if he had one, watched me like he was memorizing everything. I fed him bits of jerky soaked in broth, and when he fussed, I bounced him in my arms till he settled. It was strange. I hadn't held a child since my own. I buried my son and his mother 5 winters back when the fever swept through Fort Harper. That broke me clean in two. After that, I didn't stop riding. But this little one, he looked up at me like I was somebody worth trusting, like I was supposed to be here. That did something to me I wasn't ready for. As night fell, coyotes howled somewhere distant. I kept my rifle close and the fire low. The woman hadn't stirred again, though I checked her pulse now and then. The bruises on her arms told a story she hadn't spoken yet. Grab marks, deep and mean. Whoever hurt her meant business. This wasn't a random robbery. I didn't know what she'd done or who she was running from. I didn't ask. I'd seen plenty of men justify hurting women for pride, land, or power. It was always the same kind of man, too, the one who thought his name mattered more than her life. And here I was, sitting in the dark with someone else's child in my arms, waiting for a woman to wake up and tell me whether she'd made enemies worth dying for. The baby fell asleep against my chest, warm and breathing slow. I looked down at him, traced one tiny hand curled into my shirt. His fingers twitched like he was dreaming. That smile of his had stayed with me, still burned in my mind like the fire behind us. He'd looked at me like he knew something I didn't, and maybe he did. Maybe he saw the man I used to be, or the one I still could become. She came to just after dawn. The light was thin, gold slipping through the rocks behind us, and the fire had burned down to ash. I was sipping cold coffee when she stirred and sat bolt upright like a shot deer. Her eyes were wide with fear, darting across the landscape, searching for the baby. When she spotted him, nestled in my saddle blanket, still asleep, she froze. I held up a hand, slow and steady. "He's fine. Didn't make a peep all night." She looked at me like I was a rattler coiled by her feet. Couldn't blame her. She didn't know me. She probably didn't remember me dragging her half dead up this bluff and stitching up her head with trembling fingers and bootlace thread. Her gaze lingered on my face, cautious, and then drifted to the rifle near the fire. She didn't speak, just nodded once tight and sharp. "You got a name?" I asked. She didn't answer. I didn't push it, just leaned back against the rock, sipping what was left of the coffee. The baby stirred and let out a soft grunt, then went quiet again. She reached for him, slow, careful like he was breakable, and held him close, pressing her face into his hair. Her shoulders trembled. It wasn't crying exactly, just a shaking too quiet to name. I let her have that moment. When she finally looked up again, her voice was hoarse. "Where are we?" "Couple miles west of Bad Hollow. You were near a burned-out wagon yesterday when I found you. Thought you were dead." "I almost was," she said, voice flat. Then she looked away. I didn't ask who lit that fire or why she was running. I figured if she was ready to tell it, she would. That's how it works with folks carrying too much. They let it out slow, like leaking a barrel so it don't explode. "He smiled at you," she said, glancing at the baby. I nodded. "That he did. He don't smile at just anyone. Maybe he's got good instincts." She didn't smile, just stared into the flames that had long since died. "He's not mine by blood," she said after a while, so quiet I almost missed it. "But he's mine all the same." I didn't say anything. She cleared her throat. "I can't stay here. They'll come back." I looked her over. Her face was scraped, the swelling on her cheek turning yellow at the edges, the bruises deepening like ink under skin. She was in no shape to ride, much less run. "You won't make it far." "I have to." "Who's after you?" Silence. Then, "Men who want what I won't give." I didn't ask more. Didn't need to. I'd seen that kind of hunger before, the kind that took more than a name and left less than a soul. "I ain't trying to own you," I said, setting my cup down. "But I can ride with you, get you clear." Her head snapped up. "Why?" "Because your baby smiled at me like I was worth a damn. That's more kindness than I've had in years." That made her pause. Not trust exactly, but a crack in the wall. "I can't pay you," she said. "I didn't ask." She nodded again. Then, after a long beat, she said, "Claire." "Bo," I replied. "Bo Ransom." She repeated it like tasting the sound. "Bo." A hawk cried overhead, circling the bluff. The wind had shifted, colder than before. I stood, kicked dirt over what was left of the fire. Claire rose slowly, cradling the boy close. Her movements were stiff, favoring one side. She winced and I stepped forward, offering an arm. She hesitated but took it. We packed up in silence. I wrapped the boy in a blanket and lashed him against my chest with an old bandolier strap so Claire could ride easier. She rode behind me, swaying with the rhythm of my mare's steps. It wasn't comfortable, but it was movement, and movement meant life. We kept off the main trail, rode low through arroyos and cut across scrub where no wagon could go. I watched the sun rise slow behind us and kept one hand near my rifle. My back tingled with the feeling of eyes, imagined or not. Around noon, we stopped at a rocky creek to water the horse and stretch our legs. Claire fed the baby while I scouted the ridge. That's when I saw them, faint tracks coming up from the south. Not fresh, but not more than a day old either. 2, maybe 3 riders. I came back quiet, crouched near her. "You're right," I said. "Someone's looking." Her lips thinned. "They won't stop. You said the baby wasn't yours by blood. Who is he to them?" Claire looked down at the boy, smoothing the blanket over his tiny chest. "He's a truth they want buried." That was all she said. But I understood plenty. Secrets were a heavy thing in the West. Sometimes they were strapped to saddles, sometimes wrapped in blankets. And sometimes they smiled up at strangers like they knew the road ahead would be long, but not empty. We didn't speak much after that. The baby cooed once and she smiled. Not at me, but at him. A smile full of ache and hope. That night we found a small rock shelf to camp under. I didn't build a fire. Too risky. Claire curled up with the boy, eyes open long after sunset. I stayed awake too, rifle across my lap, every twig snapped sounding like a fuse. We didn't know how many days we had, or how close danger rode. But I knew this. I wasn't leaving them. I'd seen too much smoke in my life, too many good things burn. Not this time. We'd been riding 3 days when the boy took fever. It started with a cough, low and wet, then a heat poured off him that near burned my chest through the blanket. Claire felt his forehead with trembling hands and went still, like her body knew what her mind wouldn't say. "We need water," she whispered. "Clean. Cold." The closest I could reckon was a spring I'd used once, years back, tucked between red boulders west of the salt flat. I didn't tell her how far it was. I just turned the mare and pushed hard. Tobias whimpered against me as we rode. Claire sang to him, soft and cracked. Some hymn I didn't know, her voice trailing off like smoke. Her arms were around me tight, not for closeness, but because she couldn't afford to fall. Neither of us could. By dusk, we reached the spring. It was smaller than I remembered, more silt than shine, but the water was cold. I dunked my kerchief and laid it across the boy's forehead while Claire gathered what roots and leaves she could find. Things she said helped draw out sickness. I didn't ask how she knew. A woman on the run learns what she must. We made camp beneath a crooked juniper. I stoked a low flame, just enough for warmth and boiling the herbs she crushed with a rock. The boy drank it through a rag, coughing between swallows. His skin was fire. "He's strong," she murmured, rocking him. "He's survived worse." I watched her for a while, her face hollowed by worry, her fingers never still. That baby wasn't born of her, yet she held him like he was stitched to her bones. There was something sacred in it, something real. That night I dreamed of my own son, only I couldn't see his face. I woke cold and angry, gripping my rifle like it might bring him back. Before the sun rose, I climbed the bluff to scan the land. My gut had been prickling since we left the ridge, and sure enough, I spotted what I feared: 3 riders, faint outlines on the horizon. Moving slow, methodical, tracking. I went back down, quiet but fast. Claire saw my face and stood up before I spoke. "They found us," I said. Her mouth set firm, but her hands trembled as she packed the baby tight against her chest. I helped her into the saddle. She looked back at the spring, the place that almost healed and almost held us, and then we were gone. I led the mare through narrow brush paths, ducking under limbs, circling back twice to throw off scent. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. Those men were patient. They weren't chasing, they were hunting. By afternoon we came to an abandoned line shack, half buried in scrub and shadowed by granite outcrops. The roof sagged and the door hung loose, but it would give shelter. I checked the ground, no tracks but ours. Claire laid the baby down in the shade, wiping his brow. His fever had broken some, but he was too quiet. I handed her my pistol. "You know how to use this?" She nodded without looking. "What'll you do?" "Wait." I didn't tell her that I meant to finish it. I didn't plan on us running forever. I'd done enough running for 2 lifetimes. And something in me, maybe that boy's smile, maybe her trust, said it was time to make a stand. The riders came near sundown. I heard them before I saw them. Hooves soft in the sand, voices low and cruel. 3 men just like I'd figured. One wore a coat too fine for the trail. That'd be the mouth. The others had the look of hired guns. Wolves on a leash. I stepped out from behind the rocks with my rifle raised. "That's far enough," I called. The man in the fine coat reined in. "Bo Ransom," he said, like my name was a curse. "Didn't peg you for a wet nurse. She's under my protection. Don't much care what you think she is. She took something that ain't hers. She took a child out of hell, I said. And you came riding to drag him back. The man smiled, cold as bone. That baby's a claim. His blood ties him to land. Inheritance. Without him, our mutual friend up north gets nothing. You understand how valuable silence is. I did. I'd seen men kill over less. The first shot rang out before I could answer. One of the riders had moved early, too cocky. My rifle cracked and sent him off his horse, hard. The second one spurred forward, but I dropped low behind the boulder and fired again. Dust kicked up, shouts echoed. A bullet chipped the rock near my ear. Then Claire screamed. I don't know how I got to her so fast. Just that I did. She stood in the shack doorway, baby in one arm, the pistol in the other. One of the bastards had circled wide and tried coming in from behind. She shot him once in the gut, point blank. He went down without grace. I grabbed her, shoved her and the baby behind me. The final man, the one in the coat, was nowhere in sight. Then I heard it. A voice behind me. You don't have to die for her, Ransom. I turned slow. He was 10 feet away, gun level. I didn't blink. I already did. Then Claire pulled the trigger. The last man dropped, his pistol clattering beside him. Claire stood behind me, both hands shaking. Her lips parted but no words coming out. The baby whimpered. The world went still. I lowered my rifle and turned to her. We done? She whispered. For now, I said. But I knew we weren't. Not really. Someone had set fire to her life and sent wolves to chase the ashes. And I'd stepped into it without meaning to. Or maybe I had. Because somewhere along the trail, without a word spoken, they'd become mine too. The sheriff arrived 2 days later, riding hard with 3 deputies and dust in his beard. He'd gotten my message, one I'd sent through a stage driver weeks ago, just in case the wrong trail ever caught our scent. Sheriff Merritt Dane wasn't a man quick to draw or quick to judge, and that made him one of the rare few still worth trusting. We met him at the edge of town, me holding the reins, Claire beside me, the baby nestled against her chest like a second heartbeat. The townsfolk stared as we passed, some curious, some cautious, but no one stepped forward. Dane dismounted with a frown carved deep into his face. Ransom, he said, low and steady. I heard rumors of gunplay near Dead Juniper. Yours? They rode after a woman and a child, I said. Only one side walked away. His gaze flicked to Claire, then to the boy. This the one? She nodded. Dane studied her for a long moment. You know who's looking for you? Yes, she said. And I have proof of what he's done. It's in the saddlebag. Claire had kept the letter hidden through every mile of dust and danger. It was written in a shaky hand, signed by the brother of the baby's real father. A dying confession that named the land baron, Harlan Creed, as a thief and killer who'd stolen the child's inheritance by force. The child wasn't just a name on a deed. He was the last bloodline of a vast property east of the Brazos. Dane read the letter 3 times. Slow. This'll burn hot in court, he muttered. Creed's got friends in high places, but this is kerosene. Claire held Tobias a little tighter. He won't stop. No, Dane agreed. But we can make him show his face. Publicly. That afternoon, under the safety of the sheriff's office, Claire gave her full account. No dramatics, just truth laid bare in a voice steadier than I expected. She told of her marriage, her husband's death, and the moment she learned Tobias's real worth. She never asked to raise him. She just chose to. Dane wired the territorial judge. Warrants were issued. Names named. And just like that, the hunt reversed direction. For the first time since I'd met Claire and the boy, we weren't prey. Still, safety comes slow when you've lived too long on the run. We stayed in town under Dane's protection. Days passed. I helped mend fences around the sheriff's place. Claire worked in the kitchen, cooking stew with the same quiet focus she once used to measure each mile behind us. And the baby, Tobias, he began to laugh more. Big, full-bellied laughs that made the air feel softer. One morning, I found Claire on the porch, Tobias curled in her lap. She didn't look tired anymore, just worn in, like a stone smoothed by river water. She looked up at me, That guarded edge behind her eyes finally softened. "He still smiles at you first," she said. I leaned on the rail, watching the boy blink up at the sun. "Reckon he just likes ugly cowboys." She chuckled, soft and rare. "No. He sees something in you." I didn't answer. I didn't know how. We didn't talk about what came next. Not right away. I figured she'd leave once the judge ruled. Take Tobias somewhere far from bullets and lies. I told myself I was fine with that. I'd done what needed doing. Gave her a shield when she had none. But the morning she came to me, eyes clear, hands calm, I understood different. "I don't want to run anymore," she said. "Not from him. Not from this. This." She looked at Tobias, then back at me. "You." That word landed heavy, but not hard. Like something finally settling into place. I didn't rush to answer. I just took the boy in my arms and felt his small hand grip the edge of my collar. We weren't kin by blood, but somehow he already knew. Maybe from that first moment by the wagon, when fire still whispered and the world held its breath. I looked at her. "I've got nothing to offer but steady hands and a quiet life." She smiled. "That's all we ever wanted." Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and set the sky to flame, the three of us sat by the corral. Tobias gnawed on a biscuit. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder. The wind was warm. The town was still. I don't know what tomorrow'll bring. The West isn't kind to dreamers. But I've seen enough to know that sometimes, even in the ashes, something good takes root. Maybe it ain't about saving anyone. Maybe it's about being there when someone saves you back.